The Jane Millen Doe, also known as Jenkins County Jane Doe, identified as Chong Un Kim. This case begins on Sunday afternoon on Valentine's Day, February 14, 1988, in Millen, Georgia. This is one of those cases where it was very lucky that someone was found at all. It was at this time that a man was looking for cans to recycle, and he would find himself looking inside of the dumpster that's shown here. While he was looking for cans, his girlfriend was waiting in the car. This was off Kaiser Road, which is now the bypass area, and Old Perkins Road in Millen. It was at this time they observed there was a large duffel bag inside. They did decide to go ahead and look inside the duffel, and inside they found a woman, wrapped in plastic that was sealed using duct tape. They didn't, however, report to authorities what they found. Instead, they went and picked up a friend and returned to the dumpster. It doesn't specifically say, but I suspect they weren't sure the contents were really what they were. After returning with the friend, they contacted the police. They would explain right before they approached the dumpster, they had observed a small brown vehicle at that scene. Another person would come forward to say they smelled what they believed to be a decomposing body. As the police investigated, they found 2 children who also saw a small brown vehicle at that garbage can, saying they were there 2 days earlier, however. The children would say they saw a middle-aged couple throwing things into the dumpster and a woman crying out for my baby. If it was the same vehicle, it's possible they were checking to see if anyone had found her. The GBI had the entire dumpster taken into their headquarters, and inside it they found bedding and a towel inside garbage bags that they believed were related to the duffel bag. Due to the pickup schedule of the dumpster, police determined that it had been previously emptied on a Friday, and she was found on Sunday. This would mean she'd been placed inside of the garbage receptacle on or after February 12, 1988. The examination would determine she was likely Hispanic. However, a later examination would find that she was likely of Eastern Asian descent and that she was likely 20 to 30 years old. They believed her life had been taken 4 to 7 days before she was found. The town of Millen is actually pretty small. They had a population of around 3,500 at the time she was found. There was a very small Asian population in this town, less than half of a percentage point. They had no clear indication of her COD, and although they believed it was probably asphyxiation, there were no signs of trauma other than her feet had been tied together, which they believe happened while she was still alive. She was healthy, and she hadn't taken any drugs. There was no indication of SA either. She did have a missing tooth. They believed it had been extracted by a dentist, which means it was possible that she didn't have the funds to take care of the tooth. At the time she was found, DNA had been used for an SA that had occurred in UK 2 years earlier, in 1986, but it hadn't ever been used for identification. And the system for DNA crimes didn't start till 1994. So in 1998, they had no idea that cremating her might have doomed her to being forever an unidentified person. And that's just what they did. They cremated her. There was a group of mostly Hispanic migrant workers who had relocated to Georgia in 1988. And they thought maybe it was somehow related. However, they also believed that the people had left the area 2 weeks prior to Jane Doe's, and none of those people were reported missing. A man named Johnny Young was the subject of a tip that was called in, suggesting he was involved. He was 23 in 1988, and the tip came in pretty quickly. He'd lived in Millen, but he'd arrived there from Orlando, Florida, with a large suitcase on the 9th of February. During his interrogation, he originally denied having anything to do with it, asking the investigator if it was his uncle who called in the tip. This was, of course, a great lead to the uncle, who told the police his nephew was involved in moving illicit substances. A local woman would inform them that Young had made the acquaintance of a woman who was likely of Puerto Rican heritage, and she had left with Young after he stole from someone else. The tipster had said she feared that Jane Doe was that woman. However, when the police approached the tipster who had given her name, she denied being the one who made the tip at all. In 1991, the police received a phone call from someone taking responsibility for our Jane Doe. The man was believed to be Johnny Young, who I just mentioned. The police would again approach Mr. Young, and he would deny calling the police or admitting fault. He then blamed his uncle and another individual for that phone call. The police kept investigating Mr. Young and keeping an eye on him, eventually speaking to another relative who would say that they picked him up after his trip from Orlando, saying there was carpeting in his bedroom similar to the fiber found on our Jane Doe. and it is noted that the suitcase he had with him may have been large enough to have even transported her from Orlando to Georgia in hopes of keeping her unidentified. At this point, Johnny Young was the best lead, but it's all they had, and there was no proof. The police would examine the case again in 1998, hoping they could solve it. They found a brownish gold carpet fiber that had stuck to the tape that had circled our Jane Doe's body. They would also determine the sketch of the female was not an accurate depiction. I'll post both later with her true photograph as a comparison. While I think the first sketch looks to me like she's Hispanic, which they did believe her to be originally, the mouth is still very accurate. They would develop a new recreation in hopes of getting closer to an accurate depiction. They received more tips, but none panned out. One such tip suggested there was a man who took the lives of several in the area, and he had a girlfriend of Asian heritage who reportedly disappeared after the crime. While that was a legitimate case, they were unable to tie our Jane Doe to that at all. A re-examining of the bedding appeared to have originated from a household versus a hotel. They estimated the design as most likely belonging to a young adult. They developed a theory that she was perhaps a foreign national who had entered the U.S. without documentation. They believed this in part because Atlanta is a port city and immigrants sometimes arrive here. They believe it's possible she could have been a victim of human trafficking. They would note that usually in that case, it is women of Chinese descent. These women are generally brought in to work in massage parlors that are located off the highways, often visited by truckers. And it's not unusual for these women to not only fall victim to being forced to do this, but to have their lives taken. They noted in those cases, many described the sheets as embroidered. I believe this is why it's noted that the sheets found with her did not have any embroidery. It's stated that one investigator tried to trace the manufacturer of the bedding to North or South Korea, but there was no follow-up, so it probably wasn't successful. Over the years, they definitely made a lot of efforts to try to identify her, but it just didn't work. As per usual with cases like this, there were allegations throwing out all kinds of serials. I don't even want to say their names. I hate bringing them up. I feel like I need to mention that there were some suggestions, but I think they just throw these out all of the time, and the truth is they don't know who took her life. Like so many of these cases, DNA advancements could change everything with that also. There definitely was DNA on some of the items that were submitted so far, but they weren't able to get complete DNA from anything, so it's possible more may come up. Othrum's cost for processing this case was provided by Project Justice. And it was with this they would learn this was Chong Eun Kim of Hinesville, Liberty County, Georgia. Hinesville is just 91 miles, or about 147 kilometers away from Millen, Georgia. Johnny Young, who they believe may have taken her life, has since passed away. Chong Eun Kim was found 91 miles or 147 kilometers from home. She went unidentified for 35 years. Had she lived the life she deserved, she would be 61 years old today. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. The whole dance with YouTube is hard sometimes. I gain only about 350 subs a month. So if you consistently watch my videos, maybe take a moment to subscribe. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.